very deep theological convictions that are running through what we're doing. And in some ways, we've sought to use a lot of ordinary language. Like we talk about an unraveling that's going on in our culture, in our churches. But what we're arguing in the book is that while you can present a lot of sociocultural, philosophical reasons for that unraveling of the state, of capitalism, that this is the Spirit at work. And over against the unraveling, we're talking about a fermenting and a bubbling of God's Spirit. And that what's happening as this wager, that is, we've lived for 300 or 400 years on the wager that if you give your commitment to the state, and the 20th century has huge world wars to demonstrate that, and you give your commitment to the escalator of upward mobility, consumer capitalism, and if you are committed to maximizing yourself, kind of the Oprahization of ourselves, then all the good things in life will come to you. And that story's failed massively. And in the failure of that story, the church has little to say in North America because it basically made God useful. The spirituality of the self, how to discover the self, how Christ can fulfill your life, all that kind of stuff. But in the midst of it, the Spirit of God is bubbling and fermenting a new future. But the gift of that is you can't strategize it. And where are the people of God who are willing to risk in practices what we call learning again how to make the road as you walk on it? Because that's really where we are.
Absolutely. And in a European context, migration has been so significant that actually there's something amazing going on here, because the church has got the opportunity to begin to exemplify what it might mean to be a European in the future. Because these communities have migrated to Europe. They're not going back to where they came from at any stage. And their children are going to be part of they are the new Europeans, actually. Right. And if the church can model what it means to be this new community of Europeans, drawn from every nation on earth, as it were,
it's a massive thing.
It could be a wonderful thing indeed.
If I hear you correctly, I hear you telling stories of, for example, Africans who come, but there's numbers of them now who are not saying, we're going to set up and create an African affinity group church. They are deliberately saying, we want to be God's people across race who bring together the peoples. Now that's a different thing, because the story of North America has always been what I call affinity groups, moving into enclaves and worshiping. But you're describing something very different.
Yeah, it is different. I mean, it's slow getting off the ground.
Yeah.
One Ethiopian leader put it to me this way. He said there's 4 stages. Stage 1 is migrant people, often economic migrants who are struggling to survive. So stage 1 is just, how do we survive? Stage 2 is, we've survived now, so let's help those in the country from which we've come. So that's their understanding of mission.
Right.
Then thirdly, an awareness that actually this isn't necessarily working for our children and our grandchildren, so we need to pay attention to their needs. And then lastly, that can only happen in the context of being aware of our neighbours who are not of our ethnicity.
Right.
So stage 4 is where mission is taken seriously. But also, along with that, a realization this is not necessarily easy to do.
No.
But actually, our children and our grandchildren have got the best opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
So it's actually a very hopeful scenario.
Yep.
And one is, you can point to increasing numbers of situations where this is in fact taking place.
That's good news.